Hi everyone. Today we're going to go over how orders work in Shopify and how to manage, fulfill, cancel, and create orders on Shopify. So starting off in the Shopify admin, we can see here that we have one order to fulfill. You may have been notified by email if an order comes in, and you can see when orders arrive by either viewing here or on the left hand side next to the orders tab. You can see that we have the number 1 here, which means that we have one order to fulfill. So you can click on either link to get to the orders section. And here is where you'll see all the orders placed on your website, the history of the orders, whether they've been shipped out or not, whether they've been paid or not, who placed the order, the dates, and the order numbers. So this is an overall view of where you can see the orders. You can filter down the orders either by fulfillment status. You can see which orders haven't been shipped out yet, which orders are unpaid, open orders in general, and old closed orders. You can also filter down in more detail by choosing status, payment status. You can choose by sales channel. You can filter down in a bunch of different ways, but this is where you'd be looking at your orders as a whole. So if you want to look into the details of an order, you can click on the order number over here, and here you can see the details of the order. So you can see here that there's one item that was placed for this order. It's test item. Here you would see an image swatch if there's an image assigned to the item. You can see how many they purchased, how much they paid for it, and the total they paid. Down here is a breakdown of how much they paid, how much shipping they paid for, any sales tax that was applied is here, and then the total they paid over here. And you can also see comments about the order. You can leave your own custom comments. Sometimes if you have apps that help manage orders, you might see some comments left by the app itself. But overall, down here is a timeline of what's gone on with the order since it was placed. You can also see on the right hand side if the customer added any notes when they checked out, and this depends on your store whether you have notes enabled or not. If you do and a note was placed by the customer, it would show up over here in the notes section. You can also see which customer placed the order with their name and their order history over here. If you wanted to look into the customer in more detail, you can click on their name, but we'll go over customer accounts and customer profiles in a later video. You can also see the customer's contact information. Here they have a phone number, an email address. If they did have a phone number, it would appear here, but right now they have no phone number, and you can add a phone number or an email to an order by clicking edit and then putting in their information over here. And then you can also see their shipping address. You can also edit their shipping address. If you need to copy it for whatever reason, you could just click this icon. And if they had a separate billing address, it would appear here, but it shows that they have the same shipping address. The conversion summary, sometimes they'll leave details here. Typically, you can ignore this. And fraud analysis is pretty important. Shopify has some great fraud analysis tools that will kind of give you a heads up as to whether or not they think that a transaction is fraud. Typically, I like to suggest if something is of medium fraud risk that you reach out to the customer and verify that their order was legit, typically by asking them for their shipping information to verify the last 4 digits of their credit card and the items they ordered. That's typically what I believe is enough information to verify a customer, but this is not legal advice. This is not 100% proven, and you may take your own steps to verify a customer. Typically, my suggestion is if you see that there's high fraud analysis here, that you cancel an order because more often than not, it will be fraud. Usually when there is a chance of fraud and when the site is actually live, you'll see a visual bar here that shows green when the order is not expected to be fraud, yellow when they believe it's medium fraud, and red when it's almost guaranteed fraud. Finally, you can also tag your orders. So some sites may use tags for different purposes, for searching up particular types of orders, maybe in use with some apps, but if you wanted to add a tag, you can add it here. And whenever you make a change to an order, just make sure you click save down here. So right now we have an item for an order that's been placed, and right now we see that the order's been paid, but it's unfulfilled. And unfulfilled just means that the order has not shipped out yet. So if you wanted to create a shipping label directly from Shopify and fulfill the items, you would click create shipping label. In our case, because this is a test store, we can't purchase shipping labels. But typically, when you're buying a shipping label, you'll see the items over here that somebody placed, and you can choose how many items you want to go in each box. So, for example, right now we have one item. So we want one item to go into this box. So we would choose one of one, and then we would choose our package. If you have your own custom boxes or specific boxes that you use, you can add a package and add in the box details over here so that you can reuse the package in the future. Or you could just go to carrier packaging and choose a prepaid shipping box from one of the main carriers and reuse those in the future. So you would choose the box that you'd be shipping in. If you have weights tied to the items, if there is weight assigned in the item listing, it'll typically appear here automatically. But if you don't have weights assigned, you can add the box weight over here. And you can also add insurance over here. And once you add in the box details and which items are going in the box, you would choose the ship date. You can choose whether you want to email the customer about the shipment. And typically here, it would tell you the total price of the label, and you can buy and print the shipping label from here. You also have the option to print a packing slip by choosing this option up here. So if we were to fulfill this order, I'll show you what it looks like. Because in our case, we're not creating a shipping label. If you're shipping outside of Shopify and you want to fulfill the order, you can just click mark as fulfilled. So this means you don't want to print the shipping label directly on Shopify. In this case, it's the test item. It's one item that we're shipping out. And you have the option to put in the tracking number here, and we'll put in just a random number. You can choose the carrier. It'll usually detect which carrier you're using based off of the number, but if it gets it wrong, you can manually assign the carrier here. You can choose whether to ship the details to the customer, and once all this looks good, the shipping address, the summary, and everything looks good, you can click fulfill items. And then you'll see here the status changed to fulfilled, and the FedEx tracking number is here. If for some reason an item was fulfilled and you need to change it to unfulfilled, you can choose more, and you can choose cancel fulfillment. And now you'll see that the item has gone back to unfulfilled. And also, as we've been updating the order, the notes have been adding automatically over here. And keep in mind that the notes are for internal use. The customer will not see those notes. So let's change it back to fulfilled. We'll put in a random number. Fulfilling one item. Sending the customer the details. So now that an order is fulfilled, you do have a couple of options over here. You can edit the tracking number. You can track the shipment internally. You can print the packing slip. And there typically would be an option here to cancel the shipping label. If the item wasn't fulfilled and you printed out a label, you can cancel it there. And up here you also have some options. You can print the order if you want to see just a printed version of the page. You can cancel the order. So if you cancel the order, you have the option to either refund everything as a whole. You can partially refund the order. Let's see if we can get that going. So once an order is canceled, by the way, you do have the option to delete the order. You could just click down here, but typically you won't have this option if an order has not been canceled. Let's see. So you do also have the option to create a return label if you want to ship the item with a return label. If you do that and a user decides to use it, it's a prepaid label, and it's just a nice addition to add with the store. So in this case, this order is canceled, and we have it set where if an order is canceled, it's automatically archived. So you see the order details over here, and with this line through it means that the order has been archived. So with Shopify, you also have the option to create invoices for orders that you can send to customers. So these are usually good in cases where you might be creating a custom order for a customer. If there's an arrangement offsite where they need to pay for something separate, you can create an invoice to send to a customer by going to draft orders. And if you choose create an order, so you can either choose an item from the store. So in this case, we have one test item. We can add that here. And I'm also going to add a custom item. So if you wanted to add an item to this invoice per se that wasn't on your store, and it's not something that's typically available on the store, so you can click add custom item, give it a name, you can give it a price, you can choose how many you're adding to the order, you can choose whether it's taxable and whether it requires shipping. And now here's the custom item. If you wanted to remove it, you can just click remove. You can add your own notes. You can add discounts by clicking a discount and choosing whether it's percentage or dollar based. Give a reason. And then once the order is finished, you can email the invoice to a customer. In this case, you can add a customer who's already has an account on the store. So like, let's say this was for test order. You can add the customer here. And if you choose email invoice, it'll fill out the details automatically with the invoice number, who it's going to, the main email. And you can also review the email before it goes out to see what it looks like. And once everything's good, you can send a notification and they'll get an email saying that they need to pay for the invoice. In this case, we don't want to, send it out. If you can also just mark it as paid from here. So if we mark as paid, and you can also say how you receive payment for this. In this case, we only offer cash on delivery. So we choose that as the option. And now this is marked as paid. So now I can show you what it looks like when you're trying to fulfill multiple items. So if we wanted to mark all these as fulfilled, let's say. So you mark as fulfilled. In this case, maybe it'll be better because this is a custom item. So these both say unfulfilled in two separate sections because they're two types of items. One requires shipping and one doesn't. So they're under two separate blocks over here. So let's say, we have two custom items here. And let's say we were sending them separately. They're not going in the same box. They're both going in their own individual boxes. So instead of shipping two of them, we would ship one of them. In the tracking information, we'll put a tracking number. It's not expecting shipping, so it looks a little bit different here. And you can choose whether or not to send the shipping details to the customers. And now you'll see here that for the custom items, we have one that's fulfilled with this tracking number and one that's unfulfilled. Now if we choose to fulfill this one, random tracking number, we're adding one item. We're not notifying the customer. Now you'll see that there are two separate fulfillments. Each fulfillment gets their own fulfillment number, and each one has its own tracking number. So now the customer can track both shipments separately. Now if we wanted to refund this order without canceling the order, so in this case, let's say we needed to give a customer a partial refund. Let's say they tried putting in a discount code, or they forgot to put in a discount code, or it's a rebate, or whatever the case may be, where you only want to refund part of the order and not the entire order. You can click refund up here. You can choose specifically if you're refunding an entire item. And if for some reason you wanted to change the amount that was refunded, you can change that over here. So let's say, for example, each one of these custom items cost $100, but there's a restocking fee. So we only want to refund $75 out of the 100. So we're choosing that they're returning one of these two items, and we're only refunding $75. So you can set up a custom number here. If, for example, let's say we were refunding the item, we were refunding for one of these custom items, but the customer doesn't need to return those items. In that case, you can just put in a number to refund here up to the amount that's available, which in this case is $213.25. Typically, if you choose that you're refunding an item, then it will offer to restock the item in your inventory. So if we're refunding this item, let's say, you have the option to restock it into inventory. So that's good for inventory management. So in this case, we have two fulfilled items, one unfulfilled item. And now if this order is completely fulfilled, we'll fulfill all of it. And now if we go to our orders, we'll see that this order is grayed out because it's been fulfilled, and now it's been archived, and we see that the payment status is set to paid, the fulfillment status is fulfilled, and now this order is completed. Now, the last section of the order details is the abandoned checkout section. And when your store is active, this section will show you the different users that come to your site and leave without buying anything. Now, Shopify has built-in email tools that will allow you to take advantage of abandoned checkouts and upsell to users that abandon checkout. And you could take advantage of this in the Shopify email settings, which we'll go over in a later video. Now, going back to orders, if you need to export a list of your orders for internal purposes, you have that option up here where you can export it. And overall, that's how you manage and control your orders in the Shopify backend.